Welcome to the Charyn Harris Experience, exclusively on Studio 54 Radio.
Hey, welcome to the Charyn Harris Experience here on SiriusXM's Studio 54 Radio. And I always love to have fascinating people in the studio. And today does not disappoint, Jennifer Howell of the Art of Elysium.
Thank you for having me.
You're quite welcome. So, do you know why you're here?
Just to spend time with you. That's why I came.
Well, I'm flattered. And, because I think that what you do is really fascinating. It's really amazing. And I want to share it with as many people. My own selfish reason. I want to share it with as many people as possible. So, the Art of Elysium, I've worked with you with the Art of Elysium.
Lucky for us that we had you.
Lucky for me because, not only do they give the best parties in the world, and I'm always saying that. So you're going to have like tons of people knocking at your door,
which ties right into the whole Studio 54 thing you got going on here. Big inspiration for our parties.
You're going to need a bouncer. So we're going to get, that's the vision. That's the vision. But you do, the wonderful work that you do. I'm going to turn it over to you so you can explain. And then I also really want to talk about heaven and all of the talent, but I'm going to just kind of be quiet and just hand the mic over to you.
Oh, please don't be quiet. Please jump in. I like you leading it. So the Art of Elysium, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary, and we first and foremost believe in art and the creative process. I went to film school, lost a friend to leukemia, and that was kind of my call into service, and I didn't know anything to do other than art. So I sat with 23 friends and we went around the room, and it's like, I write, I draw, I do music. We made a list. We went to Children's Hospital LA, no intention to start a charity. They say very quickly, you can't do this. You've got to go through a volunteer training process. I went through it myself, took people in under my volunteer badge. That was August of 97, and December of 97, the hospital called me in. They said they loved what we were doing and the artists that we were bringing in because they were true artists. And it was touching not only the children we were serving at Children's Hospital LA, but their siblings, their families, the nurses, the doctors. They wanted us to continue, and they said, we would love for you to do that, but you need to start a nonprofit. So I had no idea what that looked like, what that was. Kind of one miracle after the next. It was formed, and the Art of Elysium was born. And now where we sit as being artists on call. How do we go in with our own creative voices and our own creative talents and ignite that in others who are suffering?
Right. And that's really beautiful. It's just so beautiful and so giving of you and your community, and having these volunteers, and to just be able to give, to share their gift. I feel that there aren't enough people sharing their gifts, or just in that position and it's just making a decision, to go ahead and do what you need to do to bring light to somebody else's life. And I think that that's, for me, what music and art really does. It's transformative. It's healing. Like you said, art heals. Art heals. And and I was impressed getting to know your organization, working with your organization, also handling some of the support programs, which was just an incredible experience for me. Coming from a community, or even in my family, my mother was always into philanthropy and giving and working in the nonprofit field for so long as I did. But, just like a constant reminder of how much further we have to go, and you're also kind of legendary for bringing people together with your art salons, which, yes, they're fun, but some of them are really informative.
Well, and I think to what you were saying about engaging people, and then I'll go right into the art salons, but I think that artists by nature are giving. If you create and your intention is to share that with someone, that's automatically truly connecting to another person. If you're a writer and you want someone to hear your story, you feel like you have something deep within you want to share. If you're a musician, you want to share your voice, you share that. I think that artists by nature are servants. We came in to bring something down and share it with the community at large. So I feel like artists are always the first to say, what can I do? If it's a social movement, if it's philanthropy, if it's charity, I feel like artists are always the first ones to sign up because it's just who they are. And of course, there's some people who look at art and the business of art as getting famous. Those aren't the people who are really in our community.
Right.
Some of them have gotten a lot of acclaim. They would still be doing it if they were on the streets. They have to do it. And those are the people we try to pull together. That goes right into the art salons. Is the art salons, like Studio 54 and everything to do with Studio 54 was about bringing fashion, art, film, music together under one roof and just celebrating it all.
Right.
Living it, being it. And it's such a huge inspiration for the charity, to be totally honest, because it was this intersection of collaboration that was this moment in time that changed everything, truly. So the salons, I hope, have a little bit of that magic. That's what our intent is to bring artists of all the different fields together and talk about how do they use their art to change the world.
Yeah, and I think that that's where you may even have more flexibility in your position. For instance, and you're absolutely right. I think that was one of the things about Studio 54. When we look at that moment in time, the artists that were there, the power that was in the room, the talent that was in the room, even when it comes down to who's there in terms of supporting businesses, because there are brands in that room. There are people who are handling the sound in that room. There are producers in that room. But I think it's also important to note what you harness your power for and what you harness in terms of what you're doing with it. You know, like, are you just, is the purpose to party, which is, fine, but I think with what you do, and I love the analogy of Studio 54 to think of it as like, what if Studio 54 and the Art of Elysium had a baby? That's what I think heaven is. You like that?
That would be a dream child for sure. Yes.
But that's what, like, when I think of, so you have an event called Heaven.
Yes.
You actually have an event. So that to me is the dream child of Studio 54 and the Art of Elysium, where you have this fabulous, fabulous event. And I just went to my first Heaven event. And you were celebrating Neil Gaiman, who's a very prolific writer, author, creator, and had a stellar cast of talent to help promote the evening and just help everybody just feel really good and bring this vision to life for your visionary. So I'd love for you to talk about Heaven. And yes.
Well, I love Heaven being the child of Studio 54, the Art of Elysium.
The love child.
Back in the early days of the charity, I used to say the Art of Elysium is if Studio 54 existed today, but instead of partying, it was doing goodwill. Like that really is kind of the ethos of this organization, is building that kind of community where you do bring all of that talent and all those resources in to build heaven on earth.
Right.
Hence where heaven came from. Elysium in Greek mythology means sitting at the foot of God, and it's where heroes would go when they die. And that was the closest circle to being next to God. And it was like Elysium, Elysian. It went, by degrees away. And that's what we believe we do with the programs in connecting artists to those in need, is that we bring heaven to earth, the Art of Elysium, the art of heaven. So at our 10-year anniversary, we were going to do our big gala, and the idea was always to give a visionary the opportunity to create their idea of heaven on earth, which ties directly back into our mission. And so the whole idea and concept of heaven is you select a different visionary each year. You rotate the disciplines that we serve: art, fashion, film, music. And they literally build heaven from the ground up. It is not our input, and people are always blown away by the event. And I'm very quick to say, I wish that we could take credit for it. We allow artists to be artists and do what they do. So with Neil this year, his idea of heaven was heaven is a library where refuge is given and knowledge is free. So we took that and we started really breaking that down. And what does that mean? What is the philosophical ideas of that? How do you bring that to life? And he talked very much about in his childhood how libraries were everything. He buried himself in books. He read book after book after book and became the writer he is today, the creator he is today, because of libraries. And then he constantly was like, it's the doorway. And in that kind of idea, Neil thought it would be amazing to have people pick their favorite books, not his books. He was always quick to say that, please, no, it's not me. They don't need to read me. And have them read. And so they could be the orators in heaven and kind of be the 9 muses of Elysium. We had readers pick books. A lot of them did choose Neil's books because he is so many people's favorite authors, mine included. And between the readings, we put in musicians and even how the musicians came to be. Each year, if people don't believe in some divine design or some grand creator, whatever religion does not matter. But if you do not believe in that, you really wouldn't understand how heaven comes to life every year, because we got Neil to do it on October 2nd. And the event was January 6th.
Okay. And if you did not tell me that, and if I did not see what was going on behind the scenes, I would not know that, because it was fabulous.
It's an incredible feat, and you kind of just start building it, and it's like, okay, we have the idea now. By the time we really had the idea locked in, it was probably mid-November. So actually putting the talent in and locking everybody in, it just kind of happened. And just, again, the miracles that happen. I was at Shepard Fairey's art opening. Shepard was a past visionary. His idea of heaven was, he goes, I don't know what I believe in anything after here. But what I do believe is that everything in the here and now is interconnected. And he referenced a photo of David Bowie, Lou Reed, and Iggy Pop. And in the middle, Iggy was in the middle, and he was wearing a T-Rex t-shirt. And he said that photo was everything to me. It's how everything connects, because T-Rex at that point in time was playing on all 3 of their albums. And even though he wasn't there, he was on the shirt. And we sat there and I was like, is that a Mick Rock photo? And he's like, yeah, do you know Mick? I was like, yeah, like, we can call Mick. Do you want to use that photo for heaven? And he's like, really? And so we connected, like, we called Mick, who was also a friend of mine and had done stuff with the charity. And Shepard took that image and created the invitation and all of the visuals. And we tagged an underground parking garage with Nick's photos. And it was the interconnectivity of all things. So I say that to say that this year for Neil's Heaven, I was in an exhibit at Shepard's, and I'm walking out, and there was like a little reception from maybe 6 to 7. And whenever I go out, Jason Siegel's outside, and he couldn't get in, and he was like it was packed, and he was trying to like get in and trying to get the person's attention. I walked out and I grabbed him. I hadn't seen him in forever. And I was like, hey, I'll take you around back. So I scoop him up. We start talking. I mean, had not seen him in I don't know how long. And he was like, oh my gosh, please send me information. So I, told him everything. And Jason ended up reading the ending scene, the ending pages, I should say, of Neverwhere. And that was what he selected to read. And the night of, he got Neil to sign his book, his own copy. He showed up with his own copy. And those moments are, to me, what makes heaven heaven. It is the interconnectivity of all things, going back to Shepard's vision, but every visionary has a completely different idea of what heaven looks like to them. And I worried, I'm like, God, somewhere they're all going to kind of blur at some point. They don't. They're all completely independent of each other. Interesting.
Have they all been tied into their careers, or?
No, I mean, no. No, not at all. I mean, Stevie Wonder was a visionary. One of the most amazing moments of all heavens happened the day before his heaven, actually. Stevie was its light in kind of the darkest hour. Like, he wanted people to experience the world as he experiences the world. So his ideas, whenever you came in for the cocktail hour, it was like so bright. It was light and scent like you have never smelled. Very specific fragrance was made whenever you went in. Music, everything's loud. And then when you walked in for dinner, it was pitch black with one shaft of light. And whenever you sat at the table, you were given Ray-Bans to wear. Sorry, I think it was Ray-Bans. You were given sunglasses to wear. Probably just shot myself in the foot on sponsorship there. But
all right.
You were given glasses to wear and to block out the light. So you could hear, and your senses were more alive because you weren't looking as you normally look. The food was to be tactile, touched, smelled, felt differently, so your taste buds would come alive. And it was really that the light inside of us exists no matter what you see, no matter what you smell, no matter what you taste, no matter what you feel. That light exists in this world. And for it, Camilla Bell was the Spirit of Elysium, which we always give an award to someone who volunteers and goes over and beyond. And Camilla is just the most amazing giver in the world. And she connected us to a ballet school in Brazil that was for blind ballerinas. And it's one of the only ones in the world. We flew these ballerinas over to dance at Stevie's Heaven. And the day before Heaven, it makes me cry every time because it was such a beautiful moment. Stevie's in there rehearsing. It's got a gospel choir. There's just musicians everywhere. The tables are going, everything's being set up. And on stage are these ballerinas walking the stage foot by foot.
And, we all know that Stevie is a huge humanitarian. And to be able to give that, that empowerment to these young ladies, to these dancers, and to so many who have handicaps, to just show, look, that I can do this. Because, like, if you know Stevie, and we all hear Stevie's got a sense of humor too.
Oh, funny. Stevie's
a jokester.
He's quite funny.
Yeah, he's quite funny. He really lives his life to the fullest. And I think it's a good example to us all, because many of us, even with having all of our faculties and digits and whatever and limbs, many of us still will find something to complain about. We'll find some type of barrier. But, that's something that Stevie doesn't do. That's something that you don't do also, because you're just such a powerhouse to me.
Thank you.
You're like, yeah, okay, but
I'm definitely not a Stevie Wonder. I wish I had half of that man's power.
But you do rally, and I just saw you. That was like, I'm going. I know she's gonna. I know it's gonna happen. Because I could tell, and you were just so unwavering and so like, no, we're gonna just nose to the grindstone and pulling this together, as and all and these dinners, these fabulous dinners, it'll be like Tuesday, and you'll go, hey, we're gonna do a dinner on Friday, and I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, all right, this is what we need, and and the rooms are packed. And people come in, they have a great time. There's great conversation. It's a really nice, loving energy also. It's, people just come in and just share, and they just are very authentic. And I've never it's not like, like sometimes you're out in social places and you're like, okay, I never have to go there again. I always, whenever something happens there, I'm like, okay, no, I'm there, because I know it's always the energy. There's something about the energy.
But the energy, I do truly believe, is if you have a group of artists collaborating and you connect in the power of creation, that's sacred. I mean, there's a sanctity there that's true. And that's what we hope and pray to do with our community. And I always say, you know, I have my own personal beliefs, and no matter what belief system anyone has, I feel the one inarguable truth is that we were all created. How, Beck? Well, Beck, and two, you want to speak of a visionary and a collaborator and someone who shows up and says, yes. I mean, he is such a creative genius. In LA, we're so lucky to have him here because he does so much with other people and helps other artists and lifts other artists up. And he is the one who always says yes. And I think those who have such deep connection to source, why say no? Because source itself is limitless. So if you have this abundance of creative energy that you can tap into at will, any given moment that you need it, why not always say yes?
But you've had a lot of great art. You've had John Legend. He's another one who's very given, very philanthropic. Linda Perry. You know, there's just been so many over the years, and not to mention, and those are just the music artists. But, you know, even the artists that you work with, the
Vivian Westwood was incredible.
Right.
Vivian, God bless her soul, having her create Heaven was so special, and I am so grateful beyond anything that we had that moment, because she is such a revolutionary, and what she has done or did to fight for this world with everything she has, every creative bone in her body was used for something more than her. And I mean, her vision of heaven was so different than, I mean, they're all so different, but it was, you walked into a dystopian, and what are we doing to this planet? And then whenever you went to the other side for dinner, it was all forged, everything.